All right, we are here with Adam Hull from Ghost Remote. Adam, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Brendan.
Why don't you just tell everyone kind of what you do and the company that you own and what your company does as well?
Sure, yeah. So I'm a camera operator and remote head technician and the co-owner of Ghost Remote. So we're a specialty camera movement company, and we specialize in tracking shots and remote head applications specifically. So we kind of service everything from the smallest music videos up to theatrically released feature films. I think one of my favorite things about Ghost Remote is that we're small enough to be able to kind of give individual attention to each project and really put a lot into developing rigs for each individual shoot. But we still have a kind of a large network of professionals from other areas of the industry that we pull in and help us achieve specific shots. So it's really fun.
Nice, that's cool. So, did you start off with camera operating and then do Ghost Remote?
Yeah, so I started as a camera operator, but initially I was a camera assistant and have always just had a love of remote heads and just kind of the tech side of cameras and rigs. So being an operator, I feel like I was always called on by DPs and still am to do specialty shots. And that was kind of the evolution of Ghost Remote. So we started with Ronins, and once we had a couple Ronins, we realized we wanted platforms to be able to move the Ronins around basically because we were getting asked to do a lot of tracking shots. So we were able to build some platforms for Ronins that then now are being used for other things, other remote heads, Steadicam, that kind of thing.
So, what's your thought process when coming up with methods for a rig? Like, what sort of things are you thinking about?
Well, I think as far as camera rigs, a lot of it is really similar to what you do with Legacy, but kind of leaning more toward the camera side and the remote head side versus the grip side. So a lot of it I kind of approach from that direction. Like I do have some basic grip knowledge, but I always, if I have to do something that's really grip heavy, I always pull in, someone like yourself or another grip savvy person to kind of help achieve those rigs. So I come at it more from the camera side and the tech side.
And you're kind of translating like the DP's requests in terms of like, I want the camera to move from here to here. So if like we were to step away from like the actual rigging aspect of like doing a move, like you are really focusing on like how the camera should move and like whether that's fluid and what type of system it should be on.
Yeah, exactly. So that's actually been kind of one of my favorite things recently has been DPs or directors coming to me with specialty shots that they want to achieve. And I kind of mastermind like putting the pieces together to figure out how we make that shot happen. So they're like the creative end of it, and I'm the tech side of it. And that kind of like plays naturally into me as a camera operator, but also Ghost Remote as a company, kind of being able to develop those specialty shots. So like recently we got to do a 360 rolling handheld rig for director Stills and DP Marcel Rev. That was just a concept that the director had that we were able to put the pieces together to build and send it out to them.
What do you think drives your passion for camera operating?
I think as far as what drives my passion, it's like I'm definitely a perfectionist. And it's kind of, I've never like achieved perfection, but it's always that's what's driving me is like trying to get there and trying to make the shots as perfect as they can be, or I guess I should say like as close to the vision as possible. And sometimes you end up with happy accidents along the way, of course, which is sometimes that's the best thing. And that's what's great about us as like technicians, but also as filmmakers is like the human element and ending up with something kind of that's like the amalgamation of all the people working on it. So
Yeah,
I love the collaboration aspect too.
yeah, when like you're kind of discovering stuff on set, when you think something will work beforehand, and you're like, actually, this might work a lot better. That's always like a fun
Yeah,
like process for me as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's also fun just like getting to work with people at the top of their game who bring their own kind of thought process to things, and like trying to incorporate that is a big kind of like goal for me. So
Yeah, cool. So, like, real quickly, tell us like the
sure.
different tools that you have for Ghost Remote. Just like list them off. You know, like we have a bike, we have like this, we have this.
Sure, yeah. So as far as the gear we rent out, we have our Ghost Ranger, which is a camera car rig. We have our Ghost Trike, which is an electric rickshaw trike. And we have our newest Spectre bike, which we're excited about, which is like an electric dirt bike. We also have various remote heads that we rent out, from Ronins all the way up to Scorpio stabilized head, and as well as non-stab heads.
So, here's a funny question, I guess. So,
Okay.
what's the strangest thing you've had to do for a job?
Strangest thing I've had to do
Does
for a
anything come
job.
up, or like strangest rig you've had to build or request or anything like that?
Plenty of weird ones. Definitely a lot of them from DP Chris Ripley. He always gets me up to some weird stuff. But I think there are two that come to mind. One is we put a tiny remote head on an RC car for a Harry Styles music video, where Chris wanted to track with the robot, a little robot character crossing the street at night in the rain, and then the camera and the robot both go under a moving car and then
Wow.
keep going. And we wanted to do that practically. So that was like one of the craziest asks, I think, because we had been planning it, and it wasn't until like a couple days before that we realized it was going to be at night and in the rain. So those were two variables that were just like kind of insane, but the shot worked great. So
It's
that,
like
and
par for
then
the course. Like there's always an element of surprise. So when you think you have it all
exactly,
figured out, and then you get
exactly,
a curveball.
yep. I guess that's
But
the fun
that's
part.
what it's all about. It's about figuring out how you can still do the shot, and that's why we have the expertise that we do. Just
Hmm.
because, like, hopefully we can pull it off.
Yeah, yep.
Does that coincide with a job or a camera rig that you are most proud of? Would that be one of the ones that you're most proud of as well?
Yeah, that's definitely up there. I think that's a pretty cool one. I'm also really stoked on the project that we got to work on together recently, the LA 28 Olympic flag handoff. Getting to use our new Spectre bike on that one was definitely a highlight for me, because it was a project that we were working on for a long time. And yeah, even though we only got to use it for a couple shots, it was still really cool to see it out there. And with your guys' support, it went off great, I think.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, the Spectre bike, so it's like this off-road like electric dirt bike, and you just
Hmm.
throw the Ronin. Can you throw it on the front and the back?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you can mount the Ronin with the black arm off the front or the back for following or leading.
And it's essentially a great tool for like these off-road pulls or pushes, right? Is what you'd use the Spectre bike for.
Yeah. Like in the case of that LA 28 shoot, we used it to get close up work with a downhill mountain biker. Um, and I think otherwise, those shots would have been pretty much impossible to achieve with any other tool that I can think of. So doing like long lens close-ups on a moving mountain biker who was practically biking and just absolutely flying down the hill. So
Yeah,
um
yeah, for real.
but yeah.
If you were to pick a dream job to work on, what would it be? Whether it be like it's a camera movement goal that you want to do, or just a dream job in the film industry? Like, do you have like a specific person you want to work with, or a DP, or a camera movement you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it's just more narrative projects and more feature films, because I love that fulfillment of kind of working toward like an overall script and story. At the same time, I do love the short form commercials and music videos, because it gives us an opportunity to do some crazy shots and cool rigs, which is great. But to be able to bring some of those more into the feature world, that's really my goal, I think, because it's just so fulfilling to get to work on a longer term project.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, there's something about narrative that everyone is always like drawn to. I guess because we're not just selling stuff and
Yeah,
acting like corporate
Right.
shills. You know?
Right. I mean, I think for a lot of us, that's the reason we got into filmmaking, right? Was to make films. So it makes sense. It's like, of course, you got to pay the bills, but yeah, for a lot of people, I think it's like we really want to like hone the craft on a story and a narrative, and you know, have something to really be, because it's really something to be proud of when you complete, you know, a film, like just especially if it's good. Hopefully, it's a good film.
Right. I
But you
mean, I
know,
always
it's like,
find it funny because we can spend, 3 months working on a movie,
mm-hmm,
or longer for a TV show, and then it comes out and just gets a bad review, and
right.
does horrible in the
It all
box office.
boils down to that.
But it just
That's
doesn't.
true. That is the risk.
It doesn't throw away the good times you had on set, the fun times you had setting up rigs and pulling off
Yeah.
camera moves and all that sort of stuff. So it's like you have to take that at face value. I think, like, if a movie doesn't do so well, like, it's all about the journey, right? Not about the end
Absolutely. Yeah.
product sometimes, but hopefully
Mm-hmm.
the movie's good. So if somebody wants to become a camera operator, maybe step into the industry, or maybe even become a better camera operator, like, what tips and advice would you have for them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the best advice as a camera operator, I think, is to understand as much about every job on set as you can. Um, and I feel like, I mean, I guess there are several jobs on set that you might say that for, but for camera operating, I think it's especially important to understand what goes into every person's job, because in some ways, you're that point person behind the camera. People are going to ask you questions, and it's also helpful for you to know what goes into something that you're asking for, because you might be kind of the mouthpiece of the DP or the director asking for something, but it's helpful for you to have an understanding of what kind of time that's going to take, what goes into it for a person doing that specific job, so that you're not asking something completely unreasonable, or if you are, you're mitigating the expectations of, the DP and director, the first AD, to kind of like let them know what's going to go into that. So I think a big part of camera operating is, of course, there's the technical side and the actual operating, but I think more importantly is the communication side. And of course, it's like an ever evolving process, but I would say for new operators, just to get as much time on set as possible, even if it's doing other jobs, is going to benefit you as an operator, because to be able to understand what it takes to be a film loader or a focus puller or a grip or a set dresser is, you're going to be working with all those people directly. So I would say that's my biggest advice. And then as far as the technical end of it, I mean, it just comes down to practice and time on set. And I think we're all still learning, on the fly. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if you're not learning, then you're not progressing. I mean, everyone's got something to learn. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things you offer is the Ghost Ranger, and that is like this kitted out pickup truck that you use for like different points for the camera all around us. So, like, talk about that a little bit and how you use that.
Sure. Yeah. So the Ghost Ranger is basically a multi-terrain camera car. So we use it off-road, on-road, and we really initially designed it to just have the Black Arm and Ronin on there. So it's sort of like, in some ways, it's a more accessible arm car, but we have actually encountered some projects where it ends up being the specific right tool for the job. Like, we did a music video for the Rolling Stones where we were getting all these shots car to car of Sydney Sweeney flying down Sunset Boulevard in a red convertible and shooting billboards and things like that. But specifically for the coverage of Sydney Sweeney and just the logistics of the shoot, because we were actually shooting on Sunset Boulevard at sunset, like at golden hour, basically, what we had as far as traffic control was just a rolling lockup. So we had a police car in the front and a police car in the back. And of course, there's bumper to bumper traffic because it's Sunset Boulevard. So we were actually just flying down the suicide lane in the middle, going like 45 miles an hour, going through red lights and stuff. But it was we did tests and discovered that actually the Ghost Ranger was going to be the perfect tool for that, because there was just no way you could have done that with an arm car, because in order to have an arm car on the street, you really need a full lockup. Because when the arm's swinging around, you just can't, you have no idea what other people on the road are going to do. So because with the Ghost Ranger, we were actually within the bounds of the lane the whole time, it allowed us to get those shots of Sydney Sweeney at the actual practical location, which was really important for the video.
Yeah, that's cool. And so what different mounting options do you have for the Ghost Ranger?
So yeah, as far as mounting options, we can do following or leading shots pretty much at any height. For that video, we had the camera really high up, actually probably about 12 feet, between 12 and 15 feet in the air, which was unusual for us, but that's what that specific shoot called for. And then of course all the way down to street level. And we also have it comes pre-rigged with monitors on the inside, and so there's a space for the focus puller and the director and the DP to be in there.
It's nice when it comes all kitted out. That's what I love about process trailers too. They come with a generator. It's there's a platform for everyone to sit on, and you just throw the canopy over and throw the car on, and it cuts down on the rigging time for grips at least as well. So
sure, yeah, that makes sense.
So you have what's called the Ghost Strike, and I mean I've used this thing countless times, and it's like it's awesome. Like, so
Thanks.
describe what the Ghost Strike is and like when we
sure. Yeah, I'm glad you've gotten to use it. I'm glad you've liked it. The Ghost Trike is an electric rickshaw trike, essentially. So again, we initially built it for Ronin and Black Arm. It could be mounted off the front or the back. But it's actually it's kind of taken on a life of its own. It's actually become really popular amongst Steadicam operators to use as a rickshaw. And I think it's really nice for the grips too, because it's just got a throttle on it. So basically you don't have to do too much pedaling. You can just pretty much hit the throttle. And even though you have a Steadicam up on the back, it's not too bad, I think, to do tracking.
Yeah, it's nice because there's a monitor up front, or at least a brand monitor. And so when the camera department gives us the monitor, then you can also like look at the image and make sure that you're matching the speed of your talent and your tracking as well, which is super useful. I've even done it with just throwing a guy on the back with a bounce, and we've just like basically operated a 4x bounce.
Oh, nice.
Well, I think we may even have it in there with the Black Arm and Ronin, because the seat's there. And so if you optimize it with the pipe on the back, then you can also have the seat available, and you can like ride with a bounce as well, which was super useful.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen people using it in all kinds of funny ways. Like there was a shoot where people put a mover on it, like a moving light, and just drove it around in the background. So yeah, the people have been very imaginative with it, but it's been a great tool for us. And yeah, we're always trying to update and make changes to, keep it relevant, but people seem to like it. So really stoked with it.
So Adam, thanks for joining me today and talking about all things camera operating and what you're up to with Ghost Remote. Really appreciate you coming on and chatting.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Brendan. I hope we get to work on a shoot together soon.
Yeah. I'll see you on set soon.
Yeah. See you on set.